Philip Cross, a retired British Army surgeon, holding the rank of major, resided at Shandy Hall alongside his wife Laura and their 6 children. Despite indulging in things like hunting and fishing, he seldom engaged in social activities, unlike his sociable wife. In 1886, Laura employed Effie Skinner, a 20-year-old governess with prior experience, to care for their children. With a dismissive attitude towards most women, Cross held no concerns regarding Mrs. Skinner's presence, believing it to be harmless. However, he shocked Effie by making advances towards her, though she remained as an employee out of affection for the children. Cross, interpreting her silence as acceptance, continued his inappropriate behavior. Laura, noticing his attention, confronted him, leading to Effie's dismissal at Laura's insistence, which Cross reluctantly agreed to. Manipulating Effie into thinking Laura's stance unjust, Cross persuaded her to leave the household. Trusting him, Effie relocated to Dublin. Subsequently, a secret correspondence ensued between them, under assumed identities. Over time, Effie developed genuine feelings for Cross, who visited her in Dublin, where they lived as if married. Allegedly, Cross sought to terminate his marriage without risking social repercussions from divorce, as suggested by Leonard Perry. Shortly after the unsettling events, Laura fell ill, experiencing stomach cramps, vomiting, diarrhea, and thirst. Although Cross was diagnosing typhoid and providing medication, Laura expressed to a friend, "Phil tells me I have a disease of the heart." Despite Cross's apparent concern for her health, he refrained from seeking additional medical assistance until the very end, when he finally summoned his cousin, Dr. Godfrey of Broomhill, Dripsey. By then, Laura's condition had significantly worsened, leading to her death on June 2, 1887. Unusually, Cross, a physician himself, signed her death certificate, a rarity in Victorian murder cases involving medical professionals. The swift arrangements for her funeral, justified by the fear of typhoid contagion, raised suspicions among the local community. 15 days following Laura's burial, Cross secretly wed Effie at St. James Church in Piccadilly, London. Despite his attempts to conceal the union, news of the marriage had already spread upon his return to Shandy Hall. The authorities intervened due to the string of shady circumstances surrounding Effie's arrival into the household. Laura's body was exhumed, revealing elevated levels of arsenic and strychnine, but no indication of typhoid, prompting a deeper investigation. As a consequence, Cross found himself arrested and subjected to trial for his wife's murder at the Munster Assizes, presided over by Justice Murphy. Craigie Atkins, Cross's defense counsel, devised an argument asserting that, given Cross's experience in the Far East where he encountered various obscure poisons, it was improbable that he would resort to arsenic, the primary suspect in such cases. However, the prosecution swiftly dismantled this defense, contending that despite Cross's intellect, his actions as a criminal were foolish. Evidence of motive emerged, along with the revelation that Cross had recently acquired arsenic, and had his sister dispose of the bottles he used in treating Laura. As a result, the jury swiftly returned a guilty verdict. Justice Murphy, in delivering the sentence of death, condemned the crime as one of the most barbaric and ruthless of the century. Scheduled to be hanged in Cork Prison on January 10, 1888, Cross faced his fate with a visibly aged appearance, his hair turned white with the weight of impending doom. James Barry, the executioner, encountered difficulties during the execution due to Cross's social standings. Being a gentleman of high birth, Cross's circle of friends, predominantly from the aristocracy and upper classes, attended the execution to offer him solace in his final moments. Despite Barry's insistence on tradition, Cross persisted in turning towards his friends instead of facing the wall as customary. After repeated protests, an official intervened, permitting Cross to face his friends to avoid complications with the execution. Barry later acknowledged Cross as the bravest individual he had ever executed. Dr. Bennett Hyde was married to Frances Swope, daughter of Logan Swope and Maggie Swope, and niece of Colonel Thomas Swope. In 1909, Colonel Thomas Swope resided at the estate of his brother, Logan Swope, in Independence, Missouri, along with other family. James Moss Hunton, a cousin of Colonel Swope, fell ill abruptly and passed away the subsequent day on October 1, 1909. Just 2 days later, Colonel Thomas Swope succumbed after a month-long ailment. Reports from the Kansas City newspapers on December 1, 1909 indicated a typhoid fever outbreak at Park College in Parkville, Missouri. William Crispin Swope contracted typhoid and perished the following day, December 6, 1909. Several members of the Swope household also fell ill with typhoid, but survived. Nurses harbored suspicion against Hyde and raised their concerns, prompting an autopsy of Colonel Thomas Swope, which revealed traces of poisoning. It was suspected that Dr. Hyde had administered poison and introduced typhoid into the Swope's residence water supply. Evidence suggested Dr. Hyde had acquired poison and typhoid cultures. He faced trial and conviction for the murder, but was later acquitted upon appeal. The second trial, in 1911, as reported by the Kansas City Times, ended dramatically when a juror fled through a window. Both the second and third trials resulted in mistrials or hung juries. Prosecuting attorney James A. Reed led the case. After trials in 1910, 1911, and 1913, the state of Missouri dropped all charges against Dr. Hyde in 1917. Frances Hyde utilized a significant portion of the Swope fortune to retain top-notch legal representation, despite the death of her brother, William Crispin Swope. Public opinion leaned towards the belief that the Hydes had influenced jurors through bribery. Following the trials, Hyde pursued libel and slander suits against William Rockhill Nelson, owner and publisher of the Kansas City Star, for implying his involvement in the deaths of several Swope family members. Dr. Hyde returned to his birthplace in Lexington, Missouri, where he practiced medicine until his passing. His obituary in the Lexington Intelligencer on August 10, 1934, reported his sudden demise on the preceding Tuesday, August 7, 1934. Records from the Walker Nodler Funeral Home revealed Hyde was divorced at the time of his demise, along with his date of birth. Frances Hunton Hyde's obituary stated she divorced him in 1920, suggesting he did not remarry. Dorothy Nancy Merlina Allen Chandler, later known as Dorothea Waddingham, was born on a farm near Nottingham. Her parents married a year after her birth, adopting the surname Waddingham from her father. Despite being referred to as Nurse Waddingham, she lacked the necessary qualifications for nursing. Her sole medical training involved working as a ward maid at an infirmary near Burton-on-Trent. In 1925, she married Thomas Willoughby Leach under the name Dorothea Nancy Waddingham. Leach, who was considerably older and terminally ill with cancer, sadly passed away in 1933. During their marriage, Waddingham faced imprisonment twice, once for fraud and once for theft. Following Leach's death, Waddingham entered a relationship with Ronald Joseph Sullivan, a man who had fought in World War I. Sullivan had been recognized for his bravery with the Military Medal and had also served in post-war Ireland. Although they never officially married, they had 2 children together. While living with Sullivan, Waddingham started accepting elderly and infirmed individuals as residents, converting her residence into a nursing home. This location became the site of 2 murders for which she was accused and later convicted. Mrs. Blagg, serving as the honorary secretary of the County Nursing Association, expressed her approval of Waddingham's work and facilitated the admission of Mrs. Louisa Bagley, an 88-year-old woman, and her daughter Ada into Waddingham's nursing home. Ada suffered from multiple sclerosis, also known as creeping paralysis at the time. Tragically, in February of 1935, another patient named Mrs. Kemp passed away from an illness requiring substantial amounts of morphine, leaving a surplus of the drug on the premises of Waddingham's nursing home. Ada had previously arranged a will stipulating that upon her death, her 1,600-pound estate would be entrusted to her mother, with the remainder divided between 2 cousins, Lawrence Bagley and Fred Gilbert. Ada had been informed that her own passing would likely precede her mother's. However, in May of 1935, Ada destroyed this will and drafted a new one, leaving all the money to Dorothia Waddingham and Ronald Sullivan upon the deaths of both Ada and her mother as a gesture of gratitude for the nurse's care. Sadly, the elder Mrs. Bagley passed away in the second week of May. Ada managed to hold on through the spring and summer of 1935. On September 10, 1935, she received a visit from family friend Alice Briggs, who spent the afternoon uplifting her spirits. Briggs informed Waddingham that she planned to invite Ada over for tea at her own home in a couple of days. The following day, Sullivan informed H. Mansfield that Ada had slipped into a coma. When Mansfield arrived, he discovered Ada had passed away. Given the expected nature of her death, the doctor harbored no suspicions. After gathering additional information from Waddingham, he completed a death certificate citing cardiovascular degeneration as the cause of Ada's death. Ada expressed her desire to be cremated, and had the cremation proceeded, it is likely that Waddingham's guilt in Ada's death would have gone undetected. However, the cremation process required 2 doctors to sign the death certificate, a step that could only be taken after notifying the deceased's family. Ada's will explicitly requested that her relatives not be informed, and Waddingham falsely claimed that there was no living relatives. The responsibility of overseeing cremation fell to Cyril Banks, who also served as the medical officer for health in Nottingham. Banks had never held a favorable opinion of Waddingham's self-proclaimed nursing home, and was aware that no state-registered nurse was part of the staff, as there should have been. He grew suspicious upon receiving the note from Ada Bagley authorizing cremation, and subsequently ordered a post-mortem examination. The examination failed to reveal any immediate cause of death related to Ada's known medical conditions. This led to a further analysis of the deceased's organs by W. Taylor, senior assistant of the Nottingham analyst, who discovered significant traces of morphine, over 3 grains, in Ada's stomach, liver, kidneys, and heart. Dr. Roche Lynch oversaw the procedure, determining that Louisa Bagley had also succumbed to morphine poisoning. As a result, Waddingham and Sullivan were arrested and charged with the 2 murders. The trial of Waddingham commenced on February 4, 1936, presided over by Justice Rayner Goddard. Representing her defense was Mr. Eales, while the prosecution was handled by Norman Burkitt. Burkitt presented compelling evidence, including the revelation that Ada Bagley's final meal consisted of heavy and rich food, unsuitable for her fragile condition. Waddingham admitted to providing Ada with pork, baked potatoes, kidney beans, and 2 servings of fruit pie. This act was seen as an attempt to mask the cause of death, and demonstrated a lack of concern for the patient's well-being. As a result, Waddingham was convicted of using morphine to poison both Mrs. Bagley and Ada. The motive behind these murders was purportedly to obtain the Bagley family's estate. It was also disclosed that Waddingham had claimed to receive surplus morphine tablets from Dr. Mansfield for Ada Bagley, a statement the doctor refuted. During the trial, Sullivan was acquitted due to insufficient evidence, despite his involvement in crafting the so-called cremation note attributed to Ada Bagley. On February 27th, Waddingham was found guilty. Although a recommendation for clemency was made due to her status as a mother with several young children, she was executed on April 16, 1936, after confessing to the crimes shortly before her death. The execution took place at Winston Green Prison, conducted by hangman Thomas Pierpoint, assisted by his nephew Albert Pierpoint. Waddingham, a mother of 5, was still nursing her 3-month-old baby at the time of her execution. Approximately 10,000 individuals congregated outside the prison in protest, demanding an end to what they perceived as an unjust killing of a mother. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button to join our community. We upload every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m. For more content like this, be sure to check out our other videos on the channel. You can also follow us on our other social media platforms for uploads and updates. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.